So he was not dictating for what Major League Baseball should do, that they should, dictating they should move the All-Star game. Was their decision. They made that decision, and as he stated earlier, he certainly supports that.
So he does support the decision of moving that?
Well, he supports them being able to make the decision and respond to what their players' asks are, given many of them are impacted, of course, by.
Okay, well, that was Jen Psaki today being asked about the president's stance on the MLB moving their All-Star game out of Atlanta. And I actually have exactly what Joe Biden said, what I think that was Peter Ducey, what he was referring to, asking Jen Psaki that question. And this is from CNN. This is also on camera, so you can search this clip up on YouTube or whatever. But it says, Biden says he would strongly support moving the MLB All-Star game out of Georgia over new voting law. And it says exactly, President Joe Biden said he would strongly support moving this year's Major League Baseball All-Star game out of Georgia following the passage of a sweeping elections bill that brings a wave of new voting restrictions to the state. And these are his exact words. I think today's professional athletes are acting incredibly responsibly. I would strongly support them doing that. Biden told ESPN in an interview on Wednesday, people look to them, they're leaders. President Biden also said, look at what's happened across the board. The very people that are victimized the most are the people who are the leaders in these various sports. And it's just not right, Biden said in the interview. This is Jim Crow on steroids, what they're doing in Georgia and 40 other states. So he's saying this bill is Jim Crow on steroids, and because of this bill that passed in Georgia, the MLB, which you would think typically wouldn't have much of a strong political opinion, given that they are Major League Baseball, not a political organization, but apparently they are really offended by this bill as an organization, and we've talked about this on the channel before. So they put out a statement saying that because of the passage of this bill, they are in fact pulling the All-Star game out of Atlanta. Again, we talked about this last night, but there is more to the story because they decided where they're going. So we're going to compare the two places. But first, this is what they said about moving out of Atlanta. So this is the official police. It's not the official police. It's the official release of the MLB regarding them pulling out of Atlanta. So they're saying, over the last week, we have engaged in thoughtful conversations with clubs, former and current players, and the Players Association and the Players Alliance, among others, to listen to their views. I have decided that the best way to demonstrate our values as a sport is by relocating this year's All-Star Game MLB draft. Major League Baseball fundamentally supports voting rights for all Americans and opposes restrictions to the ballot box. In 2020, MLB became the first professional sports league to join the nonpartisan what is up with me today? Civic Alliance. To help build a future which everyone participates in shaping the United States. We proudly used our platform to encourage baseball fans and communities throughout our country to perform their civic duty and actively participate in voting processes. Fair access to voting continues to have our game's unwavering support. We are finalizing a new host city, and details about the events will be announced shortly. So they are so offended by this restrictive voter bill that was just passed in Georgia that they need to move the All-Star game out of Atlanta, Georgia, to another location. And this move was highly criticized even before they announced where they were going. And this is what Governor Kemp, the one who signed the bill, the Republican governor of Georgia, this is what he had to say about the matter. And again, this is before they announced where they're going, and I'm about to tell you that in just a second. So Governor Kemp said, today Major League Baseball caved to fear, political opportunism, and liberal lies. Georgians and all Americans should fully understand that the MLB's knee-jerk decision means cancel culture and woke political activists are coming for every aspect of your life, sports included. If the left doesn't agree with you, facts and the truth do not matter. This attack on our state is the direct result of repeated lies from Joe Biden and Stacey Abrams about a bill that expands access to the ballot box and ensures the integrity of our elections. I will not back down. Georgians will not be bullied. We will continue to stand up for secure, accessible, fair elections. Earlier today, I spoke with the leadership of the Atlanta Braves, who informed me that they do not support the MLB's decision. Stacey Abrams' leftist lies have stolen the All-Star game from Georgia. So what is in this Georgia bill that is so bad? Well, first of all, it doesn't suppress anyone's vote. And the more and more I look at the bill, the more that I realize, wow, this is actually a huge compromise by Republicans, because it actually expands mail-in voting and even absentee voting. It expands early voting. It doesn't allow snacks or water to be handed out by people that are not poll workers up to 150 feet. So you have to be 150 feet away from the polling place to hand out snacks and water. You can within that range. It just has to be a poll worker, because that's when a lot of people that are affiliated with campaigns will go in line and they'll give you, hey, you want this water? Vote for my person. And they basically harass people. It's called electioneering. And this is not an unusual law. And I think the most controversial thing is that it requires a voter ID. We've talked about it before. Rasmussen just did a huge poll. Regardless of race or political affiliation, 75% of people think that voter ID should be required in order to vote. It's required to see a rated R movie in some areas, to buy cigarettes, to buy alcohol, to, I think, get the vaccine. These are the things that were so offensive to the MLB that they had to pull the All-Star game out of Atlanta. Well, they just announced yesterday where they are going to be having the All-Star game this time, and they announced it to be Denver, Colorado at Coors Field. So you must be thinking, wow, I bet they have really lax voting laws in Denver, Colorado, or Colorado in general. Well, we found out that Colorado actually has stricter voting requirements. So let's look at Colorado sort of compared to what we just said. So these are the rules in Colorado, and you can see, and I checked this myself, all this information comes from Ballotpedia. You can go on Ballotpedia and find out the voting laws and rules and regulations for any state. It's really cool. So this is the source for all of this. Go and check it out yourself. Colorado voting requirements. ID required for in-person voting, the same as what was just signed in Georgia. Early voting 15 days prior to the election, actually smaller than Georgia. In Georgia's new bill, it's 17 days prior to the election. Poll times from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Same exact thing that is in Georgia's new bill that was passed. They expanded it to meet these hours. Incarcerated felons disenfranchised, again stricter than what's in Georgia. He also says you can't distribute food or water in polling lines in Colorado. In Georgia, you actually can. You just have to be 150 feet from the polling place. And poll workers are allowed to distribute that. They're also allowed to have self-serve places where you can go and get water and snacks if you are in line. I've been voting for 4 elections now. I've never once had anyone offer or have seen water or snacks passed out anywhere. I waited in line. I voted early. I voted absentee. I've done it all. And here we go. As for the racial equity, 9% of Denver's population is Black compared to 52% of Atlanta's population. So the reality of this is the MLB moved out of Atlanta because of this voting bill when what is already in place in Colorado is even stricter. So it makes you wonder what their actual motivation is. They also took business out of Atlanta, a city which is 52% Black, they took all of that business out of Atlanta and put it in Denver, Colorado. And the whole reasoning behind everyone being upset about this bill is they say that it is suppressing minority votes. So if that's their reason for moving, they went to a place that is stricter and that is majority white, and they're taking their business away from Atlanta and putting it there. And this is the reality of what is happening in Atlanta and the people that are suffering. And it's the businesses. So this says Black-owned businesses bound to take major hit from Biden's support of MLB's Georgia boycott. Major League Baseball's decision to move the 2021 All-Star Game out of Atlanta in response to Georgia's voter integrity law could greatly cost the city's Black-owned businesses, numerous sources reported. The estimated economic loss in Georgia is going to be more than $100 million. And this is Holly Quinlan, the president and CEO of Cobb Travel and Tourism. And this is what they told CNN. Black-owned businesses in Atlanta could acutely feel the revenue loss. Nearly 30% of Atlanta's businesses are Black-owned, landing in the 5th place spot on Career Resource website of the best cities for Black-owned businesses. Savannah, where 23% of businesses are Black-owned, was the 20th best city in the ranking, Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported in February. MLB intended to play the exhibition game in the Atlanta Braves' Truist Park, but moved the location due to the new voter laws, which are aimed to curb alleged voter fraud. Among other things, the law requires voters to provide a voter ID when they submit an absentee ballot. They moved it to a state. Colorado has voter ID requirement. So it sort of makes you wonder. And like I said, Atlanta is a blue city, and Democrat, Republican, no matter what political affiliation, no matter what your race, 75% of people agree that you should have an ID to go vote. You need one to basically do anything in life. So it really makes you wonder what the real motivation behind them moving. Was it really this, or was it something else? I was watching Tim Pool earlier today talk about this, and he had a theory. He was like, just my little opinion, I'm wondering if this is maybe an opportunistic excuse for the MLB to pull out of Atlanta. Maybe they're bound into a contract and they wanted to get out of this contract and go somewhere else. And maybe this was a convenient excuse to not make it look like they're ending this contract. I don't know. I don't know a lot about contracts. I don't know a lot about any of that stuff, but if their reasoning was because of this voter integrity bill, them going to Colorado and taking all this business away from Atlanta makes absolutely no sense. And there was a study done a while ago. So this person's name, Philip Stutz, and he wrote this huge article and did a study a while back about how people viewed sort of politics, and especially this these woke politics or this activism injecting itself in sports. And he had some really surprising answers. So Philip Stutz is a corporate and political marketing expert, basically, and he's written a lot of books on the matter, and he's worked for 25 years on all kinds of different campaigns. And he did a study. So this article that he wrote is called "Sports Has a Problem, Being Woke Ain't Helping" by Philip Stutz. So I'll link to this below if you want to read it. It's pretty interesting, but I'm just going to read you a few small parts in it. He says, "Since March, I've partnered with the largest data collection, analytics, and AI companies in America to understand the economic fallout from the virus, from the lockdowns, and the Black Lives Matter protests and riots. Our 4 national consumer data insight reports analyzed 200,000 plus consumer surveys, matched it to 200 million plus consumers, 550 million connected devices, and tracking 10 billion daily online decisions, all in one database." So he breaks it down like crazy in this entire thing, but I'm just going to go to one part and read you this because it is very, very interesting. As I look at consumers that prefer companies who donate to charities, engage in social programs, or speak out on important issues, a surprising consistency reveals itself. around 87 to 95% of all generational consumers would prefer a company or brand not to engage in this type of advocacy. So he's talking about social justice and wokeness advocacy. Bottom line, it's clear that a very small percent of consumers want to hear about woke policies, activist issues, etc. from the brands and companies they consume or buy from. In fact, the activist Gen Z and millennial consumer is more concerned with companies that are helping to reduce energy use than hearing about them on social issues. The data is clear that the small group of consumers that care about social activist issues are super hot about it. However, here is what you are not hearing from the media right now. The loudest voices are actually a small minority. It's Twitter world versus the real world. So he's saying that most people do not want to see these type of politics injected in their sports, which I would think also means they don't want the corporations as a whole even giving their opinions on political activism and stuff like that. And a lot of people are already slamming the MLB for moving their All-Star game out of Atlanta because of this voter integrity bill. Yet they also just announced a huge deal with China, and we know what's going on with the Uyghurs in China. So we'll see what happens with the MLB and the All-Star game. Let me know what you think about all of this, you guys, and have a great day. Bye.